Welcome. In my last podcast, I talked about the various economic stages we have gone through in our country and how that has affected CX. I want to delve into it a little bit more this time because of some comments I received from our listeners. So, anyway, bear with me. It is about history, but I think this history helps to inform how we got here with CX and maybe some indications of where the future might take us. I think to understand CX, it's important to put it in terms of sort of the economic changes, life cycle changes that our economy went through as we've gone over the years. So the first economy, 1800s and earlier, was agrarian, mostly farmers raising meat, raising produce, raising wheat, grains, whatever. There may have been a local store from which to buy or barter things, but it was a really simple transaction. And the farmers knew who to go to buy whatever they needed. It was there for them. They could buy it or not, depending on what they thought about the product. We moving forward, we move into what I term a pre-industrial economy. It's probably 1860s to 1880s, 90s, and 1900s. We see a lot of small shops emerging. For example, building bicycles is a great example that some of these bicycle shops evolved into dealerships for automobiles over the years. But I was reminded of a pre-industrial economy when I was riding through Pennsylvania, the Amish country, a few weeks ago. You still see a lot of shops that make buggies. You see shops that make tack for horses. There's generally two or three or four people there, maybe five, working in the shop. The customer knows who to go to get service, to get answers, to place an order. This is a very simple industrial manufacturing operation, but it's industrial nonetheless. Then we move forward into probably what was the biggest change from an economic standpoint was what I term the industrial manufacturing economy. Let's think Ford Motor Company. Ford decided to build cars on an assembly line. So you had hundreds and hundreds of workers that were building these cars, but then when they came off the end of the assembly line, who was going to deliver the service? And I think this largely fell to the dealers, which was an evolving thing. About this time that automobiles were taking off, we also had tractors getting introduced. For example, John Fralick introduced the first tractor in 1892. Fralick's company eventually became John Deere. Caterpillar introduced its tractor in 1926. At that time, it was called Holt and Best, but it grew into Caterpillar. Forklifts were introduced in 1927, beg your pardon. School buses, motorized school buses, were introduced in 1914, and the first truck was introduced in 1897. By the way, it was a three-wheel truck that was built by White Auto Car. So all of these new products, they were new products for the time. They were innovative, they were different, and required a lot of support for getting those customers to understand how to use them, how to take care of them, how to make them work for them. And this is where the dealer network came into fore. It really developed at that time and really provide a valuable support role, and still does, for OEMs. But we move forward to one final stage, and we'll talk about, which is what I call the industrial service economy. While it's hard to put a specific time frame on when it happened, I think that it started sometime in the 1970s. I still remember going to business school, well-known business school, and we did not have a single case that I can recall about customer service and certainly not customer experience. It was not on the horizon at that time. Um, Part of the reason that we I use the term service is that service became more important. Uh, Service was necessary to keep these complex products running, but also there was another motivating factor, and that is there was a lot of good competition that had developed. To illustrate my point, in 1975, Switzerland and the US were listed as two of the most innovative countries in the world. In 2023, that group consisted of around 10 uh, countries. And you can think of them now: South Korea, um, a variety of other companies that have come onto the market with new products, with really good products. So, from a standpoint of the OEM as well as others around them, they had to figure out other ways to distinguish themselves besides just selling a product. The product had to be supported well, and that whole service experience became an important strategic advantage if the dealer could pull it off well. I want to emphasize, I think product innovation is always going to be important. Customers are looking for new and better things to solve problems. But in the B2B world in which we work, the uh, the important thing to remember is that customers are using these products for doing things for their customers. So they have to keep uptime at a very high level. They got to make sure that the products are working. So they need that partner to help them make sure that it's working. So I think there's some implications uh, as we start to think about CX and how we got here. OEMs are looking increasingly for ways to make the product as easy to use as possible. You may not think that sometimes, and as dependable as possible. For example, Caterpillar introduced the Vision Link monitoring system a number of years ago, so that they can keep track, the dealer can keep track of the engine, the transmission. They can anticipate problems before they come more serious. And this is true of a lot of other products I could name: tractors, see it on combines, see it on some material handling equipment. So this is the kind of change that the OEMs are making in order to improve the customer experience. Second thing, I think dealers are going to continue to be, I should say, a valuable part of the supply chain from the OEM. Yes, I know there's some who argue that dealers might disappear, and I think in some industries that may be true. But I think that's a long time in coming, if ever. Why? Dealers provide a very important service to help make sure that these complex products run well. I will say, though, as we've already seen, dealers are getting larger. They're getting both financially larger as well as larger territories. And part of the reason is they need to have that financial wherewithal to be able to support products that are increasingly more expensive and increasingly complex. I think the last thing, observation, conclusion I would draw from the CX is dealers that are part of this supply chain, any supply chain, must have first-rate customer experience. It is the important arrow in the quiver of a strategy for any OEM. It should be an important arrow in the quiver for any dealer that's trying to really have high quality service, provide the customers what they want and need, and keep those customers returning and make them tell others. So I hope you found my conversation interesting. I appreciate your comments. My email and my phone number are at the end of this video. Don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email. I would appreciate it.